Tom Scott, I didn't even see you at Tom. Thank you very much for coming. By the way, come here for a second, Tom. Because
I was keeping a low profile until a moment.
I know. Okay, folks, Tom Scott. This, I think, is the last gentleman to actually debate Rosa DeLauro, and that was 20 years ago. Yeah. The last time Rosa DeLauro has debated an opponent 20 years ago, and this is the guy that almost got it. What, 1 percentage point? 1 percentage point. So all I have to do is I just have to do 1% better than Tom, and guess what? We got her done. Tom, if you would.
You know, does somebody have an empty chair, by the way? I'd like to talk to Rosa DeLauro, and if I could ask her questions.
She can't do that.
The trouble would be to narrow it down to the top 4 or 5 that are especially relevant, but there's so many because she's often missing in action. When she ran for Congress the first time, she actually moved from Washington to New Haven to opportunistically run for an open seat in Congress. And she bought a home up on Humphrey Street in New Haven. It's quite a duel. Her husband is Stanley Greenberg. I don't know if you know that name. Stanley was Bill Clinton's pollster. He was a very liberal Yale professor. And she doesn't often condescend, Wayne, to leave the cocktail party circuit in Georgetown to come back to New Haven. In fact, her residency is more or less a formality. And I'll tell you, we did debate her, but it was only after a liberal radio talk show host intervened. So, you have to get creative with this person. Steve Kalb, some of you may remember that name. He was a very liberal radio talk show host on WELI, had an evening show. And he invited me to debate. Actually, I initiated the request, and he invited me, and he invited Rosa. She declined. This guy had been supporting her. He had been viciously attacking me for years. So I called him up one night, and I had my calendar in front of me, and I said, Steve, I've got 26 dates available for a debate. This was on live radio. And he was so thoroughly embarrassed that this right-wing nut from Milford, in his view, was condescending to come on his show, but Rosa wouldn't. It got to the point where he was publicly saying that he picked a date, by the way, in late October, great timing. He said that he would put a blow-up doll in his seat next to me, and the debate would go on. In fact, she showed up that night, only acknowledged that day that she would come, and the die had been cast. We had 4 television stations there. In fact, Rich was there, I believe, or nearby, certainly. And it became a national story, and it really helped overcome some of the money dilemma that we had. Just a quick background on Rosa DeLauro. She is not the woman who she portrayed herself in TV ads over the years with her Holy Communion pictures. This was only after we exposed her as the radical, out-of-touch leftist that she really is. She used to be the executive director of something called Emily's List. That's an acronym for Early Money is Like Yeast. And some of the wealthiest radical females in this country, and you would know some of the names, serve on their board. So when one of their kind announces for Congress, they bundle money and they get $200,000 or $300,000 to run for office. And when I ran against her, she had as much money from Emily's List on day one that I had my entire campaign. And I mention that because this David and Goliath story is one to embrace. We had no money to speak of, but we had a good ground game. We had good citizens who came forward who wanted a different approach. She outspent us. She had 10 TV ads for our one, literally 10 to 1. We had a stronger message, a stronger argument, a better candidate, in my humble opinion, and a better ground game. So if you can embrace the notion that this great town of Stratford, we won it overwhelmingly. We won the primary 4-1 in this town, and we won the general election 2-1. The blue-collar, homeowner, private sector Democrats in this district are our kind of people, but you got to talk to them. That whole Route 8 corridor, Wayne, you know who they are, you know where they are. West Haven, East Haven, Worcester Square. Rosa DeLauro's mother, Louisa, was the alderwoman there for 27 years. Her dad passed away, and he had been the alderman for 20 years, and Rosa's mom succeeded her dad. Louisa was known as the mayor of Worcester Square. There is no more heavily Italian precinct in America, as far as I know. There is a statue of Christopher Columbus right on the little town square in Worcester Square. We went into Worcester Square, and we talked to those little old Italian Democratic ladies, hereditary Democrats, about bilingual education, about abortion on demand, about taxation, and all the things that Wayne stands for. And we almost won that neighborhood, so it can be done. So folks, spread the word. I know it's just pre-Labor Day, and there would probably be many more people here today if it wasn't this pre-Labor Day Friday. But spread the word, because there are lots of people like you in your sphere of influence, people you go to church and synagogue with, and people you work with, and your neighbors, who also want their country back. So spread the word for this good man. Yes, we can, if I may borrow a line.
Thank you, thank you. And yes, absolutely. Folks, I'm gonna wrap it up now, but again, thank you very much. And like Tom said, I mean, this is the beginning of a holiday weekend. I know we all have things to do, and so I really, really thank you for coming out. And I'm gonna do one last thing. For those of you who may, be part of those those couple people that think that Wayne Winsley has some nice verbal skills or anything like that. Well, I have to introduce to you one person who is partially to blame for that. This gentleman, some of you may have known that I worked in radio 20 years as a broadcaster on the air here in Connecticut. Well, the person that taught me the most about broadcasting and how to put 10 minutes worth of news into a 4-minute sock and still leave time for traffic and weather. He taught me how to do that. Mr. Tim Quinn of WICC, back there, this guy, that's my mentor right there. So thank you. Folks, thank you so much for coming out. And yes, we've got a lot of work to do, but we can do it. That's how we all win. I'm talking about everybody. Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated. We get rid of Rosa DeLauro, we all win with Winsley. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I forgot, I can't go home tonight if I don't introduce my wife. Ladies and gentlemen, April Dawn Winsley. And by the way, if you liked my speech at the convention, some of you may have seen my speech I gave at the state GOP convention. My wife, April Dawn, gets all the credit for that. She stood me at the back of the room right before I went up, and she whispered to me, she said, "Wayne, I want you to go up there, and I want you to make all the delegates in the other 4 districts wish you were their candidate." And I said, "Okay." So thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
All right. All right. Thank you.